So I mentioned frames of reference, and so you cannot look at the world without a frame of reference. And the reason you can't do that is because it's too complex to see. So that means that a frame of reference is actually a necessity for perception itself, which is quite interesting. So you cannot perceive it all unless you perceive locally and pragmatically. That's what it looks like. And then you might ask yourself, well, what do these frames of reference look like? And this is where I think neuropsychology and cognitive science meets narrative psychology and psychoanalysis, because I think this, just as the smallest units of your semi-robotic subsystems, the ones you share with animals, are personality-like when they manifest themselves, so the concepts that you use to build the frame of reference that you orient yourself with are narrative-like. Because you could say, well, what's a narrative? And the answer to that is it's a description of a personality in action. That's what a narrative is. And so if the actual problem-solving subcomponents of your psyche are sub-personalities, then the description of those is going to be basic narratives. And so the hypothesis here is that because we're tremendously imitative creatures, first of all, I can pull your personality out of you at any given time by just watching what you do and matching it with my body, and we're doing that all the time. If you're a reasonably social person and you're talking to someone one-on-one, you're going to match your behavior to theirs in all sorts of ways. I mean, one of the experiments we did once was we brought undergraduates into the lab and we just put like a, you know, a bowl of chips between them, and basically what we found is that each of the undergraduates ate exactly the same amount of chips as the other. So sometimes a dyad would settle into no chips, and so neither of them would eat anything, and then another dyad would settle somehow into, well, we'll eat all the chips, and so then each of them would eat half, and the correlation was like 0.9. It was unbelievable, and these were strangers, you know, and so you're mirroring the other person's embodiment like a mad dog all the time, and it's a great thing to be able to do, because it means that you can unite your being within the same locale, and that means you don't have to have conflict. Plus, it also means that you can learn very rapidly from someone else just by doing what they're doing. And I don't know if you guys have seen this, but there's computers now that take advantage of this idea. And so what happens is, like, let's say you have a computer that, it's a robot, and you want it to do this task. So pick something up here, move it up here, pull it over here, and put it down. All you do is you take the robot's arm, and you put it down, and you close it, and then you lift it up, and you move it over and down, and then the robot will do it by itself. And so that's, you know, that's the beginnings of robotic imitation, and that's actually, imitation is mind-boggling, because once it kicks in, as soon as one thing learns something, then all the other things that are exactly like it can learn something. And so what I think will happen in the next 5 years is we'll finally get robots that are fairly autonomous, and they're really on their way. And then we'll get ones that are good at imitating each other, and then the thing will just explode, because if there's say there's 10 million of those robots that are reasonably complex, then as soon as one of them learns anything, all the other ones will all immediately know it. And well, that's exponential growth on a scale that we can't even imagine. And that's coming very, very rapidly. But anyways, you already do that, and that's part of the reason people are so damn smart. But then you're also capable of a different kind of imitation, and that imitation is when I watch myself do something, and then I formulate it into a concept, and then I tell you the concept and you decompose it so that you can use it in your own body. And that's basically what we're doing when we're telling stories. So now it's kind of low resolution communication, but it doesn't matter. It's unbelievably powerful communication. And as far as I can tell, the basic unit of that narrative or that frame of reference is this. You're somewhere, because you're localized in time and space, and that isn't as good as it could be for one reason or another, so you're trying to improve it. And then you have some notions about what you have to do in order to improve it, and you act them out. You implement them. And I think you're doing that all the time, and I can't see how you cannot do it, because you have to have a technique for simplifying the world. And so, as far as I can tell, this is the technique. And so a basic story was, well, I was here, and then I went there, and that was better, and here's how I did it. And so that's a pretty good story. It's not great, but it's good enough. You might listen to that. Or you might watch it on a video, like I did when I was trying to figure out how to fix my car stereo. Right? So It's a story about how to fix a car stereo. And you might say, well, that's not a very good story. It's like, I didn't say it was a very good story. I said it was the basic element of perception and also of narrative communication. And to make that, those two things united is a tremendously exciting possibility, because one of the things that you may have noted about psychology, this is something we talked a lot about in my personality class, is that there's a real disjunction between narrative psychology, which generally tends to be quasi-psychoanalytic, and neuroscience, for example, and psychometrics, which tend to be, well, they're not narrative anyways. You know, we haven't been able to bridge the gap. And so part of the reason I'm telling you the things I'm telling you right now is so that you can bridge the gap.